By the mid-2000s, Ronaldinho had secured every major honor in the game. He won a World Cup in 2002, the Champions League in 2006, and the 2005 Ballon d'Or. As the global face of Nike, he was arguably the most recognizable athlete on the planet. By 2020, that reality had vanished. Amidst reports of bankruptcy and mounting debt, he was photographed being let through a Paraguayan government building by armed guards, arrested for entering the country with a forged passport. His time in detention took on a surreal quality. The man who once commanded the world's highest footballing wages spent his afternoons playing in a prison tournament, eventually leading his team of inmates to victory to win a 16-pound suckling pig. Modern legends like Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo have defined the game through nearly 2 decades of machine-like consistency. By contrast, Ronaldinho's prime lasted barely 3 seasons. That trademark grin was born long before the stadiums and the trophies, forged during a childhood in Porto Alegre that would define his approach to the game and his life forever. In Porto Alegre, Ronaldinho spent his youth on hard futsal courts. The heavy ball and confined spaces demanded a specific kind of rapid manipulation, allowing him to master the elastico, a move that would eventually become his calling card in Europe. But his childhood was marked by a sudden, devastating loss. When he was just 8 years old, his father suffered a heart attack and drowned in the family swimming pool. The loss of his father at such a young age left him with a lasting sense that life could end unexpectedly. It nudged him toward a philosophy of radical presence, the idea that because the future is never guaranteed, the only time that truly matters is the present. This outlook shaped his entire playing style. He rejected the cold, tactical efficiency of his peers, choosing instead to play with an uninhibited, childlike joy. To Ronaldinho, football was never just a job, it was a performance intended to make people smile. While Nike marketed Joga Bonito as a global brand campaign, for Ronaldinho, the beautiful game was a personal armor. It allowed him to treat the pitch as a sanctuary of pure expression, far removed from the pressures of the professional world. At Barcelona, that expressive freedom revived a dormant club. He inspired a young Lionel Messi and played with such aesthetic brilliance that he became only the second player in history to receive a standing ovation from Real Madrid fans at the Bernabeu. The 2006 World Cup served as a critical pivot. Brazil entered as the tournament favorites, but when the team struggled and eventually fell to France, the global focus shifted toward Ronaldinho's lack of impact. Faced with this sudden wave of adversity, his live-for-the-moment mindset began to work against him. Under the weight of national expectation, he drifted toward the escapism of the nightclub scene rather than the discipline of the training ground. This lack of structure led to a rapid physical decline. Frequent partying and a lack of dedicated training saw his fitness levels drop, and his once explosive movements grew sluggish and predictable. By the time Pep Guardiola took over at Barcelona in 2008, he demanded a level of tactical rigidity and professionalism that Ronaldinho was no longer willing or able to provide. The same carefree spirit that had fueled his unmatched creativity on the pitch eventually stripped him of the focus required to stay at the top of the game. What followed was a decade of drifting. He showed glimpses of his old brilliance at AC Milan and Atletico Mineiro, but these moments were increasingly buried beneath a chaotic lifestyle that saw him move from club to club across the globe. Eventually, the lack of focus caught up with him off the pitch. Massive environmental fines, seized assets, and legal battles over his finances followed him for years, ultimately culminating in his 6-month detention in Paraguay. This leaves us with a complicated legacy. Do we view Ronaldinho as a cautionary tale of a player who squandered his gifts, or as a rare miracle whose peak was never meant to last? If we judge him by the standards of modern longevity, the data is clear. This shorter bar shows a career that ended far too soon. But Ronaldinho's impact is something that resists being captured by a spreadsheet. His real legacy is cultural. In an increasingly mechanical and data-driven sport, he remains the eternal symbol of Joga Bonito. the man who reminded the world that football is a game of beauty and it should always be played with a smile.